to the donut hour of fun. The fun hour of donut making. I don't know. Yeah, we are going to be creating the final picture and actually a final animation. So we're going to put the donut and the coffee cup together. We're going to add a texture to the counter, make it look like marble, put some bricks in the background, do a little animation of the donut sliding in there, and then we're going to render that out into frames and then compile it into one final video file to show you the full workflow, the full spectrum of what you end up doing in 3D. And yeah, what do you think of my beard? Just letting it keep go, right? So far I can see everyone likes it except my wife. So we all know who's going to win that argument. It's going to be her. Say goodbye to the beard soon. I told her I'm going to keep it going until I finish this donut tutorial. That's my excuse. So she's like, all right, fine. Anyway, so we finished our coffee cup at the end of the last part. This is where we ended up, right? Now let's bring back our donut collection. Hooray. So they are intersecting, obviously. So I'm going to move my, grabbing the plate, because the plate is the parent of the coffee cup, move this to the side, and then I'll just position it behind it. Plate, because the plate is the parent of the coffee cup, move this to the side, and then I'll just position it behind it like so. Now, it's a good point, like a good time now, before you start arranging the scene and compositing it with the camera and everything, to make sure you've got the right sizes for everything. Because size is a big part of how, like, you won't even usually recognize it in your head. If the scale is off, if something is bigger than something should normally be, you won't even recognize it, but you'll just know that it looks fake or something looks wrong. So you want to make sure whenever possible to use the real sizes of things. So as it turns out, you can type in things like donut dimensions. And then you'll get all sorts of weird posts. I saw one by Vox doing some hard-hitting journalism. Oh yeah, have donut holes gotten smaller? I don't know. Apparently, Krispy Kreme donuts and whatever is like an inch high, which, what is an inch? Like 4 centimeters, right? No, that's 2 point something centimeters, which is really thin to me. But you can get them like really big as well, like kind of like those bagel looking things, like big, meaty, stuffy looking donuts. So I'm just going to even it out and go like not 2, but like 4, right? So a little bit chunky, so something like that. So this is my face. This is what a 4 centimeter donut looks like. Bit meaty, but we'll go with that. So to find out the height of our donut, if we hit N for Nelly and then go to the top item, down here, these are the dimensions of it. So this Z, the Z measurement, by the way, these will be wrong if you've rotated it by accident and then you haven't applied the rotation. So if these values aren't 0, then your Z might be one of these other ones mistakenly. So make sure you've cleared it by hitting Control A and then hitting rotation if those aren't already 0. So make sure you've cleared it by hitting Control values aren't A and then hitting rotation if those aren't already 0. And anyway, now that I've done that, yeah, I want this to be around about 4. So I'm just going to scale this down, scale until it's like slightly below 4. Something like that. 4 centimeters, yay. Now the coffee cup, I believe this is like one of those like kind of espresso small Now the coffee cup, I believe this is like one of those like kind of espresso small, like short looking coffee cups, which I discovered is about like 7.5 centimeters high. So this is 12. So this is way bigger. This is almost twice as big as this should be. Now, if I was to scale the coffee cup, that would be a problem because the plate would remain really big. So I want to scale the plate because the plate is the parent of the coffee cup. So scale that, and now they both get scaled down. And then I'm just going to grab this. See, all right, it's about coffee cup. So scale that, and now they both get scaled down. And then I'm just going to grab this. See, all right, it's about 8. Yeah, 7-ish. Right, so that's about it. That's what we need to, that's how big a donut is in relation to a small coffee cup, roughly, right? Everything's, there's no true values, but this is probably pretty close, so that'll do fine. By the way, now that we've scaled things, our scale values are now off on everything. So I'm going to apply the scale on all of those, Control A, scale, and then the donut as well, Control A, scale. And when you do so, by the way, because we've changed our scale, the sprinkles, their scale has not changed. So I'm going to quickly adjust that by going to my render scale settings. Your sprinkles might be a different size, so play it by ear, but you know, I don't want my sprinkles to be that big. Right? Yeah, I don't know. We'll play with it when we get to the final touches part of this video, where we'll go through all the little settings and fine tune it. But for now, this is fine. Okay, now this is how it looks from the point of view of the camera. And I want there to be a brick wall in the background. We're going to do that in the next part. But I don't want there to be this much gap between the end of the table and this. I want it to look like I'm just looking at the end of the table. So I'm going to move this table back to about
Hi, in this video for the Blender Beginner's Guide, I'm going to show you how to set the view to different perspectives and also how to switch the view from perspective to orthographic and of course the difference between them. Let's start by pressing 1 on the numpad. If you hold the perspective and pressing 7 on the numpad will give you top perspective. Holding down the control key or command key and pressing 7 on the numpad will switch to bottom perspective. Pressing 3 on the numpad will give you right perspective, and if you hold down the control key or command key for the Mac users and again pressing 3 key, you'll switch to left perspective. Next, let's hit the delete key again on the numpad to view selected, a keyboard shortcut that I showed you in previous tutorials. Now next, let's hit the Z key and this will display the object as a wireframe. You can also do that from over here, and you see that we have different viewport shadings: texture, solid, wireframe. Z key, you again on the key or on control on the command bottom perspective. Pressing 3 on the numpad will give you right perspective, and if you hold down the control you'll switch to left perspective. Next, let's hit the delete key again on the numpad to view selected, a keyboard shortcut that I showed you in previous tutorials. Now next, let's hit the Z key and this will display the object as a wireframe. You can also do that from over here, and you see that we have different viewport shadings: texture, solid, wireframe or bounding box, and pressing the Z key switches between solid and wireframe. Next, I want you to press 5 key on the numpad and this will switch the current view from perspective to orthographic. Now I'm going to current view from perspective to orthographic. Now I'm going to
there, okay? And now for the framing, right? The composition. If I grab my camera and I move things around, like if I move it closer, I get like a completely different composition, right? And there's a couple of other things you could change with a camera. You could change the focal length. You could change the aspect ratio, a whole bunch of things. So, right, so let's talk about that, because now's a good time to do it, because we're going to start lighting and adding in things, and it starts to get a little bit artistic. It's kind of the fun stage. You get to play around with art, right? So the aspect ratio, right? This is like widescreen, what we've got right here. And we know what the aspect ratio is by going to the output dimensions, and you can see we're at 1920 by 1080, which the dimension right here. And we know what the aspect ratio is by going to the output dimensions, and you can see we're at 1920 by 1080, which the video editors, or just anyone who's been using a computer for a while, will know that this is typically like traditional HD, right? So HD video is about 1080 HD. That's what this is. Now, in our case, it doesn't really make sense that we're at widescreen, right? Like if we've got the donut and the coffee cup together, we've got all this blank space on the left-hand side and then all this blank space on the right-hand side. And that is kind of, it's not good for you, and it's also not good for the viewer, because it's just like kind of boring empty space and it doesn't feel right. So you want to, in this case anyway, I just want to make it tighter. This isn't like a rule, you know, composition, there's no rules. There's like rules of thumb, but you can break them if you know what you're doing. In this case, I just want to center it. I want to make it a square looking image, just because. And also it's going to speed up our render time, which a lot of you should probably like. So if I drop this, you'll see that the height actually appears to get bigger. But the height isn't getting bigger. This is the X value. So this is just the width. But it's relative to this, it's just showing you like the size of this box. So when we do this, we set this to 1080 by 1080. This is now exactly square. It's a 1-to-1 aspect ratio. Very good for Instagram. If you were to post it there, that's cool. I can see some of you have been doing that already, by the way. Cool to see. But now that we've done that, we can see we get all this empty room above and below it. So now we move the camera in closer. So if I hit G and then hit the middle mouse button, just tap it once and then slide it in and out, you can see I'm dollying it forward and back. Now, the other control that we've got here is the focal length, which if you change, you can see is like going from like fisheye to like a zoom lens, right? If you've never played with a DSLR, you know, it might, like, what exactly are you changing? Like this impacts the composition a fair bit. 50, which is what we had it at before, is good for like portraits of faces. Like 50 to 60 to 70 is good because it kind of like, yeah, like things aren't distorted because it's not fisheye, and the background behind it loses priority, etc. But 50 with this, we've made our donut and our coffee cup kind of have equal priority, right? There's not really like one that's more dominant over the other. Whereas what I want, I actually just want the focus really to be on the donut, and then I want the coffee to be kind of like just an add-on, just something that's in the background to complete the scene. So what I'm going to do with my camera selected, I'm going to set this to 30, 35. I think that'll be good. Just something that's in the background to complete the scene. So what I'm going to do with my camera selected, I'm going to set this to 30, 35. I think that'll be good. And then if I move this in closer, and then let's move it up, G, Z, and then R, and then Y, hang on, Y, that'll pan it, tilt it down. You could also do it here. Oh, not that one. Nope, not that one either. This one. All right, and then let's move it forward. And remember, by the way, for those of you who are used to other software, you can just lock the camera to view if you just want to like pan around it like that, if you wanted to. But I'm actually just going to play with it like this because I want to. Yeah, that is okay. So now that you can see, now that I've got this frame, you can see that it changes a bit, right? Now you can see that the focus really is a lot more on the donut, right? And this coffee cup, if I position it even further back, it is less in priority, right? Now we're going to do depth of field as well in a later stage. So this is going to be even out of focus a little bit. So that's going to even lose more priority. It's going to be less of a priority. But But yeah, that is pretty good right there. Hooray! Great. So we'll do proper lighting and everything in later parts. In the next part, we're actually going to be adding texture to our counter, make it look like marble, and then adding a brick wall behind it. But before you jump to that, I've got some homework for you because I know not everybody modeled a spoon like they were supposed to, myself included. Where's my spoon on my coffee cup? But you've got some homework now. You need to complete it, and that is to make a plate for your donut. Because you can't just have a donut sitting on the countertop like some animal. Like my daughter this morning eating cheese, just slice of cheese sat on the table, just mess everywhere, right? You can't be an animal. You got to have a plate. So yeah, just like what you modeled on the top like some animal, like my daughter this morning eating everywhere, right? You can't be an animal. You got to have a plate. So yeah, just like what you modeled for this coffee cup here, make a plate for the donut. Could be any sort of plate. Plate with like a hard rim in the middle, or like a gold rimmed edge to it, or like one of those flat Corel plates. That's what I'm going to do because it's the easiest. But do whatever you want. But you have to model a plate before you get to the next part. So once you've done that, go ahead, click here, and we will start making that marble countertop and brick wall. Welcome. Welcome. Everyone likes it except my wife. So, be my excuse. Um, so I'm just welcome back. Hope you made a plate. If you didn't, shame on you. Go and make a plate. Do your homework. Come on. shader. There is a glass shader here. But actually the principled shader is like, it's the master uber material which can do a whole range of things, including glass. So to make this look like glass, the only value in here you need to change is transmission. That's it. That's basically it. It's frosted glass by default.